Now, the first one said, a study of gender stereotypes in television commercials airing from 1992 to 1994 during Nielsen Top 20 programs found that though women were still objectified, the portrayal of passive and emotional behaviors was nearly as common among men as women. Okay, so here we have plagiarism. There's a lot going on here. First, everything I've highlighted is word for word directly from the source. And as we've learned, if it's word for word directly from the source, what do we need to do to indicate that? Put quotation marks around it. So that's problem one, that everything that's highlighted is word for word directly from the source. Also, it says a study of gender stereotypes in television commercials, but it never tells us whose study. We don't have a way of knowing what source gave you this information. Now it tells us about the Nielsen Top 20 program study, but we don't know what source the student learned it from. So we need to give credit to Pelkey, the original author where we got it from. So we need to put everything that's not our words in quotation marks. And then at the end of the sentence, we need to give the name of the author. And then because we're using APA, we'd also give the year and paragraph number if it's a non-print source. And I say it's a sloppy paraphrase because if you see in the middle of the highlighted information, it says found that though women were still objectified. Now those words aren't lifted. And this is what I see a lot, that students paraphrase part of the sentence, but several spots in the sentence are still word for word from the original, and that's plagiarism. Even though there are attempts to paraphrase in here, it's still plagiarism. So we need to make sure the whole thing is in our own words. You say that when you put something in your own words, you read it, make sure you understand it, and then you set it aside and then write it in your own words to make sure that you're doing a real paraphrase, to make sure that you're really putting it in your sentence structure, and that's exactly what you want to do. But you're right. Even if you put the entire thing in your own words, you still need that citation to indicate where the information came from. Quotation marks say these aren't my words. A citation says this isn't my information. Even when it's in your own words, you need a citation. So in this case, if we put everything that is highlighted here in quotation marks, we would still need to put Pelkey 2009 in a parenthetical note at the end of that sentence. Oh, we call it a parenthetical note because it's information that we put in parentheses at the end of the sentence. I call it a parenthetical note. Other people also refer to them as it's in-text citation that fits under that generic category. A text note, sometimes people will refer to them as that. That was a really good question to point out because you're absolutely right. And that I do see a lot because it's this feeling that, well, if I put it in my own words, I don't need the citation. But we do. We do need that citation. Where did you learn it from? And we need to know in the same sentence. We're not going to wait till your works cited page or your references page. We need to know in the same sentence. Okay, the next student example off of this one says, a study of gender stereotypes in television commercials airing from 1992 to 1994 during Nielsen Top 20 programs, end quote, found that though women were still objectified, quote, the portrayal of passive and emotional behaviors was nearly as common among men as women, end quote, Coltrane and Adams, 1997. It is still plagiarism. Now this one's really tricky because the original talks about what you got it from, the Pelkey, talks about Coltrane and Adams. So a lot of times students think, well, they're citing this other source. They're citing Coltrane and Adams, so I need to cite Coltrane and Adams. Well, and I ask you, is that where you got it from? And if you didn't get your information from Coltrane and Adams, they shouldn't be appearing in your parenthetical note, right? And these quotations, we have information from the source in quotes. The word-for-word parts that come from the source are put in quotes, and that's great. But Coltrane and Adams they're not the ones that wrote that. So that's very misleading. And you're right, it is still plagiarism because we're not citing the right person. They're not Coltrane and Adams' words, and we need to know where the student really got the information, which was Pelkey et al. And ET space AL, that et al. is just an abbreviation we use for sources that have lots and lots of authors, and it just means and others in Latin.